Well, I'm thrilled to be here today. There's some pressure on me, though. One of my former IPC students is here, so I've got to really step up my game, which is going to be tough because this morning I almost got in the shower with my house slippers on. I was so focused on the speech today, I literally almost stepped in the shower with slippers on. Well, I'm thrilled to be up in front of you today. I can't tell you what an honor it's been to teach here for 24 years, and I know that some of you are coming from outside the district, and we're thrilled you're here too. But for me, getting to teach at Lyons Township High School, this is my 24th year. I figured out the other day that I've actually taught for over 22,000 hours. Kind of freaks me out a little bit. I don't think I'm old enough to have taught for 22,000 hours. But at age 47, I've looked back at this career of 24 years. And in the last 4 years, I've noticed something that's been happening in our student body. And I thought at first that it was just me getting old. You know, like the crotchety old teacher. Do you remember, did you have one of those? Like back in my day, we kids cared and they did their work and I thought, I'm that guy. Right? I've become that guy. And then what I realized is that, no, that's not it, because the change happened so fast. I'd never seen anything happen, and I thought, well, maybe it's something that's happening at LT. And so I started talking to my friends at other schools in the area, Downers, Hinsdale, New Trier, Barrington, even some friends that teach in the city, and they said, no, we're seeing it too. So then I thought, well, is it a Midwest thing? And so I talked to some of my friends in California and some of my friends in New York, and they said, no, it's here too. Then I even went so far as to call one of my former fraternity brothers who teaches in Paris, France. And he said, it's happening here too. So I thought, oh, it's not just here, that something's happening. And the shift that we're seeing is that students are coming into school and they're unable or unequipped to handle things that happen to them that they perceive as a slight or bad or a conflict or an argument. It just doesn't seem like it goes well anymore. There's a lack of resiliency. Now, this isn't widespread, but there's enough students that's happening to that we're starting to think, okay, there's enough of this happening that there's something going on and we need to do something about it. So last year when I came and spoke, I just did a little breakout session. There were 25 parents there, and I wanted to tell them, hey, we need to do something together. We've all got to do it together. It takes a village to raise a child, right? We need to get on the same page with this because it's happening. And I want to do something because I care about your kids. I spent my life caring about your kids, and so I can't stand by and not do something. So I wanted to tell parents, okay, here's what's happening. Here's why I think it's happening. And here's what I think we should do about it. So today I'm going to do somewhat similar presentation to last year, except that there's some new research out by Jean Twenge from San Diego State University. She wrote the book iGen, just came out last year. Anybody read it? Anyone? Fantastic. So I will not be telling people stuff they already know. That's good. All right, so we're here to transform a child's mindset. I talked to some of you as you came in the room, and I kind of got a feel for most of us have older elementary, junior high, and high school students. So even though I'm going to be talking about mostly sophomores and freshmen, it is something that can transfer down to younger children, the things that I'll be suggesting that we do. So let's start by talking about how do we transform a child's mindset. So this is the current mindset that we see. These are some of the actions that this current mindset manifest in our children. One is that they feel entitled. Yesterday when I shared this with one of my classes, there were 4 or 5 girls and a couple boys that go, I know people like that, right? Immediately, they were so excited that they knew. I'm like, no, it's not a good thing. You should not be excited that your friends feel entitled. It's basically this idea that I deserve things. I just deserve everything. I don't have to work for it. I don't need to put in the skin into the game. I just deserve it. That's just kind of a natural posture. The next thing is that they ignore or avoid feedback. Feedback is really hard for some people. There's a reason why thanks for the feedback was on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 years. It's because people have a hard time with it, right? Hard time receiving it. And so if you have a hard time receiving it, if you haven't been taught that feedback is something that is an essential for growth, that you should seek it out, then you try to avoid it at all costs, because for a lot of us it hurts. So we take it personally. The next thing is they avoid failure at all costs. And these two are kind of coupled together, right? Because if I want to avoid failure at all costs, I'm surely not going to take risks on a regular basis. Because if I take risks and I challenge myself all the time, well, for sure I'm going to fail. Absolutely. This is the difference between a performance-based environment and a learning-based environment. Performance says you have to be here all the time. You have to get A's. You have to be the star on your team. You have to be the president of the club. You have to be the president of your youth group. You have to be just crushing life all the time. And when we're a young person, every once in a while you go, can I do something not good for a minute? Can you just give me that for a second? Can I just try something and be bad at it? We don't let that happen. Say fear risk-taking. And then when things do go wrong, they project blame. There's this lack of personal responsibility. It's like it was the circumstances, it was my teacher, it was my coach, or it was all your fault. Have you gotten that one? It's your fault that I didn't do well. It's your fault because it's hard to take personal responsibility when everything is about performance, and every time we fail, we get mad at them. And so they just try to get it off them because it hurts. They complain about problems. Now, this is partly because of social media and posting and things, but when I used to have a problem when I was little, I would go to Matt Kravitz, whose dad's name was Zbigniew Kravitz, right? And I would go to Matt Kravitz, my Polish friend, and I'd be like, Matt, listen to what happened in math today. And I would just tell Matt. And Matt would say, well, why don't you work harder? Why don't you be nicer to your teacher? Why don't you actually go in for help? I was like, what are you talking about? It's the teacher's fault. And Matt would say, no, it's not. But I would only complain to Matt. Now they complain to thousands of people, or millions, right? If their complaint is good enough, their complaint video goes viral. That's a new thing, right? I didn't grow up with that. I just had Matt. You expect others to advocate for them. Do it for me. Solve this problem for me. Talk to that person for me. Get me more playing time. Get that grade changed. Go talk to my teacher. Go talk to their boss. Go talk to Mr. Brown, the associate principal. Going up the ladder, baby. I'm going to get that fixed. Fix it for me. But they never have to do it for themselves. So in that first time when you're not there, they're not equipped. And they feel a lack of control. And it feels scary because we haven't given them the tools or allowed them to learn the tools to handle it themselves. There's an article in the Dallas Morning News a few months ago that called this lawnmower parenting. It used to be helicopter parents, that was the term, right? Now it's lawnmower parenting, where you just lawn mow down all the obstacles in front of your kids so they have nothing in front of them. But we do it too. Teachers do it, coaches do it. Get everything out of the way. Get everything out of the way so they can fly and be all they can be. That sounds good on the surface, but there's something behind that. And lastly, they serve self. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to my students in the last 24 years and talked about them. It's always about them. This last week, what classes are you taking next year? Have you decided what classes you're taking next year? Because that's going to roll into your junior year, that's going to roll into your senior, that's going to roll into college, it's going to roll into your job, and maybe grad school. And you got to decide, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? How are you doing in that class? What are you doing? How's basketball going? How's choir going? How's community service going? How's your family going? But it's always about them. And because we do that, we're constantly turning their attention to themselves. Now, some of that's important that we need to do, but if it's too much, then this mindset has some negative qualities. And so, how do we get here? How do we get here? I've touched on a couple of those things, and I don't want to belabor these points because I think we can all agree that they're pretty ubiquitous, but I want to explain them quickly. I want to focus most of our time on the solutions. I don't want to stay here in the issues that we're having. I don't want to stay here in the causes, but I want to move toward the solutions. But let's just talk about how did we get here to this current point. Well, some of you have read Carol Dweck's book, Growth Mindset. Every teacher at Lyons Township High School last summer read the book. We've had professional development training on it. We're moving more to that mindset as a staff, slowly. And basically it's this. In a fixed mindset, a student believes that they were born with certain things and born without certain things, and that's just the way it is. You're smart or you're not smart. You're a good singer or you're not a good singer. You're a great athlete or you're not a great athlete. It's already over. That's a hard place to be as a kid. If everything is about performance and nothing's about growth, then they won't challenge themselves, right? Carol Dweck did a study with 200 kids, and they were little kids, and she gave them all puzzles. And the puzzle was an easy puzzle, and every single kid solved the puzzle. 100 of those students, or those children, I should say, after they solved the puzzle, the researchers said to the little kids, "You're so smart. I'm so proud of you." And they went home. And the other 100 kids, she said, "I saw how hard you worked. I'm so proud of you." And they went home. 2 weeks later, they came back, and she said, "I have 2 puzzles for you. One puzzle is just like the one you did previously. The other puzzle's harder. It's more difficult. Which puzzle do you want?" Almost 90% of the kids who they said, "You're smart," took the easy puzzle. Why? Because their praise was about performance. If I solve the puzzle, I'm told I'm smart. And I know I can solve another easy puzzle, and then the adult will tell me that I'm smart. 90% of the children who were told, "I saw how hard you worked. I'm so proud of you," took the more difficult puzzle. So fixed mindset is this idea over here where I'm just going to do the things I know I can do. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to get my A's. I'm just going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to try anything new. I'm not going to stretch myself, because if I stretch myself, I'll fail, and that's not where I get my praise. That's fixed mindset. Negative thought life, our country. Oh, my goodness. We don't need to talk about that, right? Can we just skip this one? Okay, good. I see a lot of nodding hands. All right, we're just going to skip that one. Negative thought life. It trickles down to our children. They are watching. I had a student email me this last year. He was one of the most troublesome students I ever had. He went away from LT. I said, "Just finish this class." He was going to pass. "Just take the final." He's like, "Nope, I'm not coming back. I don't need to take the final." "You take the final, you pass." "I'm not taking it." He had the most negative energy and thought life of any student ever had. Last week he emailed me. He said, "Mr. Anderson, I want to come back to LT. You were right. It didn't work out here where I am. I need to come back." And I said, "We'd love to have you back. And you should have taken that final." Social media. This book by Jean Twenge, iGen, just came out last year. I'll have this up here in front. If you read one book about social media, read this one. It is stunning. Her research goes all the way up to 2016. It's the most recent research in a book you can find, and it's unbelievable. Basically what she says is that social media is okay for 90 minutes a day. 90. If you go into your child's phone and you look under battery life, it will show you how much time they've spent on each app. You'll be shocked. 90 minutes total. There are actually a couple new apps that you can put on your child's phone that will crash their phone after, or not crash their phone. It will crash their apps after a certain amount of time. One is off screen, or just Google apps to limit social media, and there'll be 6 of them you can choose from. After a certain amount of time, you set it at 90 minutes or 2 hours a day, it'll just lock those apps. And I'll talk a little bit later about why that's so important. The hyper-competitive culture. Some competition's really good. I'm here to tell you. Some stress is good, right? It's a motivating factor. The stress performance chart goes like this. Stress goes up, performance goes up. And at a certain point, there's this plateau, and it levels off, and performance levels off, and then as stress continues to increase, performance goes down. How do we get in that sweet spot where there's just enough that we're still on the upswing for performance? Hyper-competitive culture says there is a right college for you, and it's this one. The one I want, the best one, the highest ranked one. This is the iPhone you should have. This is the clothing you should have. This is the house you should have. This is the grad school you should get into. This is the job you should have. Always push, 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 push. And for some people, it's okay, and for some people, it's healthy. But for a lot of us, the hyper-competitive culture has led to a decline in children and youth healthfulness. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then pain-delayed teaching. We all teach our children, whether a parent, a teacher, a coach, a counselor, family friend. We're always teaching children. So what's pain-delayed teaching and coaching? Well, this is where when we don't allow them to go through adversity when they're young, when we protect them, when we keep them safe, which is a natural thing you want to do to protect your children in a society that every day in the news we see things that aren't safe, this increasing violence, this increasing hostility towards people we don't even know. We want to keep our kids safe. The problem is that when we do that too much into their years where they should be kind of venturing out on their own a little bit more, what happens is when they don't handle things themselves, they don't get to feel the effects of adversity because we're protecting them and insulating them from it. So then later on, when they should already have developed those skills, they get to that moment in their lives, and guess what? The pain feels worse because they don't know how to deal with it. They haven't had those little moments along the way that kind of build and build and build and build. So when really bad things happen, they've already been equipped with all these tools in their tool belt, their emotional tool belt, and their psychological tool belt to say, I can handle this. I can handle it. But when the delay is too long, we protect them for too long from too much, then later on, they're not going to be able to thrive. They won't. So how do we get out of here? How do we get from where we are now to where we need to go? To a place where we can believe that their mindset is more about the ability to fulfill their potential. This is going back to like Stephen Covey, old school, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to be when you're 25, 30, 35? You put that out in front of them and think, when they're 25, do you want them to be out of your house? I heard a big mm-hmm. Yes. Hopefully. See, here's the weird thing. What millennials did was they extended adolescence, right? And now what's happening is we're extending childhood. That's a big shift. But how do we know when to let them go, when to let out the rope, right? So they can have a little more distance from us, a little more independence. And it's hard to let them go through adversity, right? Because you see your child suffering and in pain and stressed out, and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I want them to be happy and thriving. But can I tell you, I think that's short-sighted. I think their long-term health is more important than saving them right now from feeling something bad. Because actually feeling something bad in the minute, in the temporary, is going to help them in the long run. So here we go. On the left are the things from the current mindset. These are the attributes that describe some of these students that are struggling. They're unstable, emotionally, socially, just not a lot of stability, don't feel a lot of control. They're anxious and stressed. Can we talk about the difference between stress and anxiety for a minute? Stress is the feeling you get from daily pressures. The difference between stress and anxiety is when you say stress, you can point to something that stresses you. When you have anxiety, a lot of times you can't point to the thing that's making you anxious. As a matter of fact, for you to be diagnosed with anxiety by a professional psychologist, I believe the term is 6 months. You have to have anxiety for 6 months. So when a lot of students are coming in and saying, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, they're using them as synonyms and they're not. Right? There's a lot of stress, right? You go to one of the top 20 high schools in the state of Illinois and you're taking 5 AP classes and you're on a varsity sport and you're doing college applications, yeah, you're stressed out because you're doing a lot. You're achieving a lot. But it's pretty good stress, right? This is an amazing place. I get back from the garbage village in Cairo, Egypt, and walk in and hear a kid go, I stayed up till 3 o'clock last night. I had 5 AP classes. I'm like, shut up. I just saw people living in garbage. You're going to one of the best high schools in the state of Illinois, and you signed up for 5 college classes as a junior. Yes, you're going to be stressed out. You're going to be stressed, but how do we handle that? And then this helplessness feeling is because they're dealing with things that they don't feel equipped to handle. And they don't know, how do I navigate this situation? And then loneliness. And loneliness, this is weird. Do you know that the more time students spend on social media, they report they're lonelier? Have you heard this? Here's what's happening. They are substituting social media connectedness for face-to-face real connectedness. It's a false connectedness. And because you're substituting one for the other, like, oh, I'm talking to my friends all the time. We Snapchat all the time. I have a student that has 500 snaps going right now. Do you know what snaps are? A snap streak is when you send one snap to a person every day. And it counts for you how many times you've done it in a row. She has 500 going. You know how much time that takes? That stresses me out just thinking about it. All right. So if we're going to get to over here, and this is where we want to be in the end, this is the idyllic form of, if I could think of what would I want my child to be described as, it's kind of the antonyms of where we are here, right? So stable, peace-filled, balanced, self-sufficient, and connected. These are the 5 things we need to do. They're very simple for me to say. I know they're harder to do. All I'm doing today is just raising some awareness and suggesting some things that I know can work. It's not a foolproof plan. Everybody's different. All of your children are special. They're different human beings. No cookie-cutter thing is going to work. You can't come to me next year and go, I tried all 5 steps. It didn't work. It might not work. But I'm telling you it can help. And here's what we do. So positive intelligence, increase their PQ. A lot of work has been done in the last 20 years in the field of positive psychology. But Shirzad Chamine is a professor at Stanford University who wrote this book. I read it 3 years ago and was stunned. Now, I know some of you see 2 letters with Q at the end. You're like, yeah, I've heard that before. IQ, EQ, CQ, QQ. Another one's PQ, right? But here's the difference. Shirzad Chamine did metadata analysis. He took thousands and thousands of study on positive psychology and put them all together and developed this idea that if you can increase your positive intelligence, you can increase your child's ability to achieve their potential. This is what I can do to help my child achieve his or her potential? All right, I'm going to look into that. Plus, he's from Stanford. So there's that. How do we increase our PQ? What does that mean? So positive intelligence is an indication of the control you have over your own mind and how well your mind acts in your best interest. Is your mind being your enemy, or is your mind being your enemy or your friend? That's a really weird question. Why am I letting my own mind be my enemy? Why am I doing that? Well, Shirzad Chamine says there are several reasons. I'm going to tell you a few of them. But your PQ is your positive intelligence quotient score expressed as a percentage ranging from 0 to 100. The higher the score, the more your brain is acting as your friend as opposed to your enemy. He has found in his study that if you can get to 75% friend and 25% enemy, that's the sweet spot. You get to 75% or higher and you're in business. You're actually helping yourself more instead of hurting yourself. I know it should be 50-50. I get it. But 75 is where you want to get. Now, let me tell you a quick story. As Gene told you at the beginning, I sponsor a club called Athletes Committed to Excellence Leadership Council. This is basically the top 20 male and female student-athlete leaders in Lyons Township High School. So 2 years ago, I decided to do a little experiment with them. I said, at every meeting, every monthly meeting, you are going to take the PQ score quiz. You go online on positiveintelligence.com, and you take this PQ score. It's only 5 minutes. Just answer questions like, were you, at any point in the last 24 hours, were you very happy, meh, not happy, very unhappy? Just questions like that. And it spits out this score. Now, these are the top 20 student athletes in the building. And when they first took the quiz, the very first time they took it, 16 of them were 55 or lower. 16 out of 20 were 55 or lower. How can you possibly perform at this level and have your mind working against you 55% or more of the time? How is that possible? Well, you are performing that level, but what Shirzad Shamin says is you could do even more. You're actually holding yourself back. Your own mind is self-defeating. So here's what you have to do. First of all, you have to know your saboteurs. There are two forms of mind. There's the survivor mind and the sage mind. And this idea of the survival mind is when you're a little child, you do whatever you can to physically and emotionally survive. And when you're little, you develop these saboteurs. You are not these saboteurs. Let me say this very clearly. If you listen to nothing else today, listen to this. If you do this with your children, make sure that you tell them you are not your saboteurs. Because you don't want someone going around going, I'm a hyperachiever, I'm a stickler, I'm a controller. Because then they're coupling themselves with those lies, with that character in their mind that's lying to them. So let me tell you about your saboteurs for a minute. Your saboteurs are the enemy part of your brain that's lying to you about certain things. Here's the trick of the saboteurs. They've convinced you that what they've gotten you to do has helped you. They've lied to you about who you are and that they've helped you achieve. And so you say, yeah, I need to keep doing it. I need to keep believing that. So everybody has the judge as the main saboteur. Now, I know these look a little cartoony for somebody from Stanford, but that's the reality of what's happening. This is the judge. Everybody has the judge as the main saboteur. We judge ourselves too harshly. We judge others too harshly. We judge circumstances too harshly. We believe in the lie that when I have a student say, I'm not good enough, I can't, I won't, it's not possible, I'm just not smart enough. That's the judge. You are smart enough. You can improve. You can work hard. You can change the process and become whatever you want. You got to shoot down the judge's lies. But then everyone else has these minor saboteurs. And these are characters that also tell us different kind of lies, like the pleaser, for example. When I took this for the first time, I found out that my saboteur is the pleaser. And the pleaser basically says that you need to go places and do things and take risks that you might not want to take because that's what you need to do to get people to like you. That's what you need to do to get positive feedback from people. For people to validate you, you need to do what they want you to do. And those are lies. Right? So one is to know your saboteurs. And how do you weaken them? Well, the easiest way to weaken them, if you do this with your children, is to say, you have to name the saboteur. Right? If I walk off this stage today and think, man, that was awful. That's the worst thing I've ever done. That's the worst speech I've ever given. That's the judge saboteur. I need to say, that's just the judge talking. And to replace it with something positive like, if one person can improve their child's life because of what I said today, it's all worth it. Just one. That's all I need to say to get rid of the judge. But to name them, to name the judge. Most of my students in ACE were hyperachievers. right? Most of them are hyperachievers. The hyperachiever says to you that you need to do more. If you stay up until 2, no, 3, stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and study, that's going to be better, right? You can do more. You can do better. That's not enough. Do more. And what happens is that those kids say to me, to my face, they say, that's worked for me, Mr. A. I'm an ace. I'm here. I'm on the national volleyball team. I'm a D1 quarterback. I'm going to play water polo out in Villanova. I got this. I crushed it. The problem is it's not healthy. And underneath that, you're not achieving your potential. There's more potential in there that you can find in a healthier way. And that's what he talks about here. So strengthen your sage. So the sage mind is the opposite of kind of the saboteurs, right? The sage mind is where we find wisdom. And I'm going to speed up a little bit here. I'm not going to go through all of these quickly. You can find these on his website and read it in his book. But basically, when you think about strengthening your sage and being more wise, it's moving past whatever happened. Something bad happens with your child, and you sit down and you say, okay, what are we going to do about it? We're going to process it, right? So first we need to empathize with ourselves and others. Forgiveness is a rare commodity these days. Teach your children to forgive themselves. Yeah, there needs to be accountability. But on the other side of accountability, and a little bit of discipline maybe, is forgiveness. Teach them to forgive themselves so they can move past things faster. Explore with deep curiosity. For me, I'm pragmatic, baby. Let's get the solution figured out and let's do this. But the problem is that if we don't explore with deep curiosity sometimes, we don't ever really give us time to really look at what happened. Explore this situation and say, what's my part in it? Why did this person react that way? Why wasn't this the best scenario or the best solution that we could have done? What happened? And then innovate creative options. When you sit down with your children and say, what should we do? They will come up with some crazy stuff, right? Do not say no. Write it down. Because sometimes those out-of-the-box moments will be the idea where your son or daughter is thinking creatively and brilliantly. Next, navigate among options to choose values-aligned paths. That's not easy to say. Where do your family values come from? For some of us, they come from the Bible or the Torah or the Quran. Some of you just have family values. This is what Andersons do. You remember that? This is what Andersons do. This is what we're about. And when you look at all the options and you align them with your values, that's how you navigate between all the options of moving forward past whatever happened. And then activate our intention to generate results. What does the judge want you to do? Nothing. Judge wants you to sit still. But the sage mind says we need to move forward past this. We need to move to a place where we're going to get healthy again, and we're going to move to something new, and we've learned from our mistakes, and we're going to try something different so we can grow. Build your PQ brain muscles. This sounds so hokey to me the first time I read it. I'm like, yeah, the PQ brain muscles, right? But this guy is talking to neuroscientists all the time at Stanford, and he figured out some really easy things to do. He has a couple tapes on his website where you sit and listen. It's kind of like meditation. Don't be freaked out. Just getting kids quiet for a minute, thinking about nothing, clearing their mind. Other things are like being intentional about touch. If you just sit there for 15 seconds and rub your fingers together and just think about what it feels like to rub your fingers together, something happens in your brain that is above my pay grade to explain, but basically neural pathways are created in your brain toward the PQ sage mind. It's calming. Just think about what it feels like to touch your other finger and rub it for 15 seconds. This is like PQ workout, and it helps kids. I don't know why, it just works. And then measure your progress. This is where you just take the quiz every so often. Just take it and see where you're at. And it's going to go up and down. But eventually what you'll see is this general arc of movement upward. In 1 year, the average increase of my A students was 21 points. In 7 meetings. It works. And the results have been amazing. And how positive they think and how their mind's working for them instead of against them. All right, so that's solution 1. Solution 2, growth mindset. How many of you came to the speaker in the fall at North Campus? Anybody come to hear her? She was amazing, right? So I'm not going to belabor that point, but I do want to show you something about why moving toward a growth mindset is so important. So this is a still shot of a video we watched the first day of school this year from an organization called Train Ugly. And basically what this says is that in the fixed mindset, let's go through this quickly first. When it comes to beliefs and focus, what do they believe about themselves and about their ability to learn, and what are they focused on? Fixed mindset says skills are born, you can't learn and grow. Their focus is performance and their outcomes and just not looking bad. I'm just going to avoid looking bad at all costs. So what do they think about effort? That's the barbell right there. Effort is not necessary. It's not useful. I don't have to try hard. See, and that's where it comes in. Like, if you told your kid, oh, you're good at math. Don't worry about English. Just focus on math. You're smart at math. Then I'm not going to put in the effort to English because I can't grow at English. That's a fixed mindset. Challenges. We back down from them. We avoid them. They frame them as a threat. That's scary. I don't want to do that. In the last 4 years, it has been unbelievable to me how many students have walked into my classroom and said, I can't talk in front of people. And I wait a little bit. I make it really dramatic, and I go, yet. Growth mindset. How about failures? We teach our children to hate failure. I actually would like you to teach them to embrace it. Because when you embrace it, you take out the scary part. We'll get to that in a minute. Get discouraged by failures, you avoid failures. And finally, feedback. Feedback's not helpful. You get defensive by it and take it personally. Growth mindset says this about beliefs. Skills are built. You can learn and grow. The process is about getting better. That's belief and focus. This has to come first. I had a student once who, the first day of class, I said, just get up and try. The first speech. She cried in front of everyone. Walked out of class. I sent her best friend out after her, stayed out in the hallway. She came back in. I said, let's try it with me one-on-one before school. She came in before school, stood up to give the speech, turned around, walked to the corner of the classroom, curled up in a ball and started crying. Crushed me. So you can do it. I believe let's just do one sentence today. Should one sentence. Came in the next week, did a paragraph. Next week brought in 2 friends, did it in front of them. I don't know if they helped or hurt, but I just wanted a little bit of an audience. She did it more. Then the first time she gave it in front of class, I said, I'll sit next to you. So we put a desk in the front of the classroom. I sat next to her on my teacher desk, and she's reading it out loud and crying the entire time. Now I feel like a monster. Right? I'm like, who makes someone do this? But she wanted to. I said, look, this is the progress. This is the progression where I believe you can do this. And she did it. She read her whole speech, crying the whole time. I'm sitting next to her crying the whole time. And I'm prompting her to keep going and give her a few words and keep going. And at the end, when she stopped talking, I looked out at the class, and they erupted in cheering. I get upset. I just get a little emotional thinking about it. But for her, it's growth mindset. And by the end of the semester, she's up doing skits. Skits. She was in a ball in the corner of the classroom crying, and by the end, she's up doing skits. That's growth mindset. Your kids can do anything, but we have to give them room to fail. But they've got to believe first. You've got to get them to believe. Effort is useful, it leads to growth under the growth mindset. You have to embrace challenges and persevere through them, framing them as opportunity. Opportunity to growth is you got to challenge yourself. You don't challenge yourself, you're the little 5-year-old kids that chose the easy puzzle. How long are you going to do that for? You're actually reducing your growth when you avoid challenges. And then failure. This is the tough one. How do we learn to use failure? I would love for parents to start sitting down at the dinner room table, and the first question you ask your child when they come home is, what did you fail at today? Because then you're normalizing it, right? It's cool to fail. And because if you failed, it means you challenged yourself. What if your child every day came home and said, here's what I challenged myself at today, and here's how I failed? And you say, okay, what are you going to do different next time? How are we going to change the process? Do we need more effort? Do we need to change process? Let's do it again. When are we going to do it again? You got to normalize failure. You got to normalize it. Take away the scary part of the world and make it normal. Don't avoid it, embrace it, because that's how you grow the most. That's how you're going to achieve your potential the fastest. And then finally, feedback. You got to appreciate and use it. Students are more scared about seeing themselves on videotape than actually giving the speeches. We videotape all their speeches so they can watch them and self-assess and grow and see this learning portfolio. Look at how much you've grown all semester. But when I set up the camera, they're like, oh. All the time. I don't want to see myself. Well, how are you going to learn? It's watching game film, right? All right, so that's solution 2. We already talked about that, so I'm going to skip that for a sense of time. All right, improving resiliency by coaching, not saving them. Oh, now I'm getting in your kitchen. This is the hard part, right? Like, what do you mean I'm not going to save my children? Not all the time. Not all the time. So this is the lawnmower parent thing. If you start to do this lawnmower parenting thing, and I do it as a teacher too, is where I take every obstacle out of their way. I mow down all the obstacles so they can just walk through life like, no problem. Nothing in my way. What happens when that first obstacle shows up in their life when you're not there? They're going to stand there looking at it like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And if they can't overcome that obstacle without you, or us, it's kind of our fault. Here's the weird thing about teaching and coaching as parenting. It's kind of oxymoronic in that our job is to get them not to need us anymore. Isn't that true? My greatest thrill as a teacher is when I have nothing else to teach somebody. I'm done with you. I've done everything I could. You can do it all on your own without me. It makes me a little sad, right? Because I need to feel needed. But I shouldn't need to be validated by my students. Right? All right, so here's what happens. Here's what I would love for us to do to increase the resiliency of our students, to get them to be pliable, to bounce back when bad things happen, right? What was the stretchy thing when we were growing up? There was like a guy that could stretch. Thank you. Stretch Armstrong. More Stretch Armstrongs, right? Something really bad happens, and all of a sudden, bang, I'm back into shape. How do you do that? Here's what I'd love to have happen. When problems arise, assess the entire situation. They get a bad grade. They walk out in the hallway and they text you. If I get an email within the passing period from you, you are lawnmower parenting. Keep the lawnmower in the garage. Here's what I'd love to have happen. Here's what I'd love the response to be over text, or maybe say, we'll talk about it face to face when you get home. And say this, what happened? Let's assess the entire situation. What was your part in it? What was the teacher's part in it? What was the assignment? What did the feedback look like? Have you seen it yet? When are you going to get it? Look at it, bring it home, we'll talk about it. Assess the entire situation. That's kind of that exploring under positive intelligence. Then role play their response. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? Okay, I'm Mr. Anderson, say it to me. Mr. Anderson might say this. What are you going to say? Say it back. Those first few playing things are going to scare you, right? You're going to say, that's what you're going to say? No, don't do that, right? You don't want to judge them. Say, well, what do you think is the result of that? What would Mr. Anderson hear when you said that? What do you want him to hear? So you make them answer questions and process their response. They're learning that way. See, if you handled it for them, none of this would happen, right? So we want to learn them and equip them to be more resilient. Allow them to respond face to face. Do not say, send him an email tonight. Face to face. The more they can talk to adults face to face, the better they will get at it. And they might fail a few times, but don't you want to do it in a place that's safer than later on when the costs are greater? Do it earlier, right? And then after their face-to-face response, review game film. They come home. Hey, how did your conversation go with Mr. Anderson today? What did you say? What did he say? Okay, what are your next steps? You didn't get the response you want. What could you do? What do you think would happen if you did that? And then at some point, there needs to be personal responsibility, right? Well, you admitted to me that you only practiced in class or you didn't practice at home, so maybe that's why you got the bad grade. Don't say that at the beginning. Say that at the end. Let them work their way toward what they're responsible for. And it's never going to be perfect, right? I could tell you hundreds of stories of times I didn't handle things well. So part of it's going to be responding to, hey, everyone's broken. Everyone makes mistakes. So what can we do to help them deal with other people who are all broken just like us? We'll all make mistakes. Is let them go through that. Let them respond. Let them think about that. Let them empathize with other people. But all that time, they're going to be gaining skills to handle it. Every time you let them handle it and they don't do it perfectly, that's wonderful. Because when they fail, it doesn't make them a failure. It allows them to learn faster and grow faster, which will get them to their potential faster. But we got to make those really hard decisions of saying to them, you need to handle it yourself, and it might not go well. But that's okay. That's okay. Well, there we go. Solution 4, become others-minded. This is going against that individualism movement, right? Everything's about me. So Dr. Jean Twenge from San Diego State University just published this book, and it is astounding. I would highly recommend it. Now, I'm not getting kickbacks from any of these books. I'm just telling you that I've read them, and they have given me insights into my own young people in my life, and have equipped me to understand what's happening. What's happening with young people in our community and around the country and around the world. So become others-minded. 3 things. 1, get off your phone. 2, engage in more face-to-face conversations. And 3, do community service. Getting off your phone, I cannot tell you how much people want to hang this on social media. Everything that's wrong with everybody today is social media. That is not true. What is true is the amount that they're on it, right? Her research says that 90 minutes or less a day is fine. That's fine. The problem is that when they're with people face-to-face, they're still on it. They're not present ever, right? And they think they're connecting themselves to other people, but what's really happening is that they're foregoing the building of face-to-face skills. They can't read other people. They can't talk face-to-face. They can't look each other in the eye. I even had to teach facial expressions last semester, right? Facial expressions. How to move your face so other people can know how you're feeling. Come on. They hold mirrors in front of each other and say, happy, sad, scared. Because here's the reality. When you're talking to people face-to-face, if the verbal and the nonverbal don't match, what do you believe? Nonverbal. And if there's nothing there for you to read, we're in trouble. Put your phone down. Here's what I would love to have happen. Our friends, when we get together, we do the tower in the middle of the table, right, at dinner. You do that? You heard that? Tower in the middle. Everyone stacks their phones in the middle of the table. If you grab your phone before we say it's okay, you pay for everyone's dinner. It's awesome, right? And you'll see people like twitching. Like you see, they're fighting their arm. Don't do it. Don't do it. Here's what's happening with young people. I walked into my first hour class yesterday. I had gone to copy something. I walked back in. There were 18 students in there. None of them were talking to each other. Breaks my heart. Do you know, I just want to tell them, do you know what amazing human beings are sitting in this classroom right now? None of these people is good enough for you to put down your phone and talk to? See, this is the first year we've let them have their phones in the classroom. This is the first year. It's different. It's different, right? Get off your phone. Why has that become others-minded? Well, that's become others-minded because this is all about me. They say it's about connecting with other people, but it's really about them. My streaks, my likes, my posts, my reaction to other people's things, knowing what other people are talking about, but it's all about me. When you put down your phone, you can actually pay attention to other people. It doesn't mean that phones aren't useful. It doesn't mean that social media is the great evil of our world, right? What it does mean is that they're losing the ability to feel connected to other people. If using social media for more than 2 hours a day exponentially increases your loneliness, I would strongly suggest that you get one of those apps that limits it to 2 hours a day. Furthermore, can we talk about sleep for a minute? How many hours of sleep was it, Zoe? 5, the average in our class? 5. They're supposed to get 9 hours and 20 minutes a night. The average was 5. Over a week, that means they have a 20-hour sleep deficit. And do you know why? They sleep with their phone. Here's the crazy thing, and I just learned this past year. The phone emits a blue light. That blue light is engineered by people that make phones to make you believe that it's daytime. So when you look at your phone in bed, your mind thinks it's daytime. It decreases the melatonin release, and you don't get deep sleep. It crushed me. I now leave my phone in the other room an hour before I go to bed. 1 hour. And I do not look at it the entire night. Now, what some student says, oh, there's this orange mode you can put it on. Night mode. It glows orange. Okay, how about just leave it outside your room? Buy a $7 alarm clock at Target and leave your phone outside your bedroom. You don't need to check. Bzz, bzz. It's on your nightstand right next. Oh, by the way, just today, I was driving here. A study came out. Okay, bear with me for a minute. It's mice and rats. Don't freak out. They put cell phones next to mice and rats for years. The increase in tumors in those rats and mice's bodies was exponential. Now, I'm not Chicken Little, right? Don't freak out, because that's mice and rats. But they've started to do studies on humans. So can I suggest, at least during nighttime, that the phone is not next to their head? Just have it in a different room. Just in case. I know it's just mice and rats, but it's your child's brain. Okay? I just lost a friend to brain cancer. I would like that to not happen more often. So get the phone out of their bedroom. Engage in more face-to-face conversations. Here's what Jean Twenge from San Diego State University says in her book, iGen. More screen time equals less in-person social interaction, which increases loneliness. We've already talked about that. Community service. I'm running out of time, so I got to hurry up. Community service. Top 10 reasons to serve. Can I just point out a couple of them? It brings people together. It promotes personal growth, self-esteem, empathy. It strengthens your community. You learn about yourself, chance to give back, and you make a difference. If you're believing that your life doesn't matter anymore because of how much you've been bullied or talked down on social media, if you feel like you're lonely, if you feel like your life doesn't have any value, what'll happen if you start helping other people? Someone needs me. I can make a difference. Right away, you're being valued because you're filling a need in someone else's life. Can you make this a monthly thing with your family? Do it as a family. Now, sometimes this places, you have to be 16 years or older, but if you come with an adult, there are lots of places, even in our community, where you can go and help, and the needs are going to keep getting greater, okay? All right, last solution, embrace thankfulness, the importance of gratitude. I am going to have to ask my students for forgiveness sometimes. I'm a little snarky, as Zoe knows, but when I do something for a student that I don't need to do and they don't say thank you, I say, you're welcome. And I smile that weird smile, like you need to correct your behavior smile. Do you have that one? We've lost a sense of thankfulness. I don't know where it went. Now, there are some students whose parents have drilled into them. Every single day they leave my classroom. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Every day. No matter how bad, how awful the class was. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Every day. And I forget to tell them how good that makes me feel. That they're thankful. That's it. Thanks, Mr. Anderson. So these are the preeminent researchers on gratitude. Not going to belabor the point, but I just want to read a couple quick things to you. These are some of their key quotations, and then I'm going to have to wrap up. People who keep gratitude journals on a weekly basis have been found to exercise more regularly, have fewer physical symptoms, feel better about their lives as a whole, and feel more optimistic about their upcoming week as compared to those who keep journals recording the stressors and neutral events of their lives. All right? So maybe you don't like journals. Maybe your kid's not a writer. It's like, Mom, I don't do journals. How about a log? A gratitude log, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But maybe they don't want to write. How about this one? Daily discussion of gratitude results in higher reported levels of alertness, enthusiasm, determination, attentiveness, energy, sleep duration, and quality. Grateful people also report lower levels of depression and stress, although they do not deny or ignore the negative aspects of life. Just this one. Maybe that dinner time is, what did you fail at today? What are you going to do about it? What are you thankful for? What are you thankful for today? Just 3 questions. Instead of how was school, which doesn't really go over too well with some people, right? Fine. 3 questions. What'd you fail at today? What are you going to do about it? What are you thankful for? So here's where we started with the current mindset. I want to leave that behind. I want to go to the potential fulfilling mindset. If nothing else, if we can agree on nothing else, is that we all are working together to get your children to fulfill their potential, but in a healthy way. In a healthy way. Because if health goes, nothing else matters. If you have to leave school because your mental health has suffered so much from stress or whatever's happened to you, you're not going to be fulfilling your potential academically. If you're depressed because of what's happened on social media and you just don't believe that you matter anymore and you don't believe that you can be who you want to be and you've got this fixed mindset, does academics really matter at that point? So health needs to come first. Feeling thankful, seeks and values feedback, sees failure as growth potential, pursues value-added risk. I put that in there because I don't want kids driving bikes off cliffs and ghost riding and stuff, right? Value-added risks. If I risk this, there's some ROI, right? Return on investment. Accepts personal responsibility, addresses problems actively, advocates for self, and will become others-minded. This is where we want the actions to be, right? This is the potential fulfilling mindset. Is that going to happen overnight? No way. If you just pick one of those things, it might be a goal for the year, to set a goal of, hey, I want you to, this is going to be our goal for the year, or this is going to be our goal for the year, or this is going to be our goal for the year. You're going to start advocating for yourself. I'm not going to leave you out there all alone. I'm going to coach you through it. I'm going to be there through it. But when it comes to you handle it, you're going to handle it. I'll help you along the way. And of course, if something bad happens, of course, you're going to step in as a parent, right? But when do you do that? How often do you do that? How often are we letting them gain the skills they need to gain? Here's those 2 mindsets. So I'm going to make this available to everybody, so don't worry about getting all this right now, but I need to wrap up because I want to have a couple minutes for questions. This is where we started. Unstable, anxious, stressed, helpless, and lonely. This is where we want to end. Stable, peace-filled, balanced, self-sufficient, and connected. And these are the 5 steps I believe we need to get there. I would love to answer any questions you have. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope this has helped you. Please feel free to email me or call me or stay after. I'd love to talk to each of you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Questions? Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, some of it was safety issues. We had parents in the community come and say, if, God forbid, but if something should ever happen at LT or in our family, I need to get with my kid immediately. That's some of it. Others of it is that we're not one-to-one yet with computers. And so a lot of classes now, including mine, they're using their phone for school. And that has been very valuable. In my IPC class this semester, just yesterday, at the end of the workshop, I said, okay, record yourself with voice memo. And we're doing volume and pitch. And so they all have their phone, they all have their headphones, and so they recorded themselves, and then they immediately plugged in and then listened to themselves. Or at the last workshop that we did last semester, they videotaped their partner, and then immediately after, you turn around and watch your speech. Immediate feedback. And for me, it's not like they're sitting in class on Snapchat. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like there's ubiquitous use during instructional time. Their phones are not out in class in a vast majority of the classes, unless they're being used for academic purposes. Now, in study hall, they are allowed because some students find it very relaxing to just unplug during the day and have like a brain break if they've got all their work done and they're caught up in all their classes. Well, but study hall is quiet and purposeful time for studying. So if you're on your phone, you're quiet. You can't be talking to people. You can do that in lunch and passing periods and after school. I mean, it's our first year. We're gonna review it. Are we reviewing it, Mr. Brown? Yes, Mr. Brown says we're reviewing it. So you could talk to Mr. Brown after. I'm sure he'd love to talk to you. Yeah. Thank you. It's very kind. Yeah. Well, first of all, it's because they're scared of failing in front of you, right? Or their friends, for that matter. Probably more their friends than you, right? But really, it's about challenging yourself, right? So, if like for example, in class, did you offer to help someone else in class today, or did you raise your hand first, or did you? You can do something. It doesn't have to be teacher-led, right? Like, yes, there are going to be times where I challenge my students to do things they haven't done before and do things they're uncomfortable with because I want them to grow faster. But you can choose challenges yourself. So you can kind of address, what your child's weaknesses are, right? And so why don't you say, hey, why don't you maybe go sit with someone else in lunch today that you don't normally sit with? Yes. In regard to what? Could you elucidate a little bit? Some of it is the exploration of adolescence, right? When you're transitioning from childhood to adolescence, that's a very scary time for everyone involved. Yes, everyone, including me. But I think it's this delayed childhood thing that's really what's happening. I think it's because, in the last 10 years, safety's become an issue in our country for the first time ever, right? Like when I was young, Jay Turner would call me up and be like, hey, meet down at Barbara Greenfield at 12 o'clock. And I'd get on my bike and ride away, and my mom wouldn't see me for 6 hours. I had no phone. That's because there are no people driving around kidnapping kids, right? Like, we were safe. There's no phone. Be back by the time the streetlights are on. Like, that was the thing. And now, and the other thing was, and I think it's, part of it is like, sports. Most LT kids are in a activity or sports. All those things are organized now. Like where there's no leadership or resiliency is because if I wanted to play shortstop, I had to fight Jerry Winchester to play it. Like I had to argue. And if I didn't get to play shortstop, guess what? I just went somewhere else because I didn't win because Bubba was big. That boy was big, right? My best friend, but he did not play. So I think that safety is an issue. I think organization of activities for kids, they don't organize anything themselves anymore, right? We all do it for them. And so where's the resiliency come from? Where do you don't have to argue with anybody anymore because you argue for your kids. Or, you run up to the coach and say, hey, they should be playing more. Or whatever it is. But I think the reality is that the safety part, and then that's kind of delayed adolescence, so the child has gone longer, and they feel that, right? They feel like, hey, by the way, there's some really great things that have come out of this. Fewer of them are doing drugs. They're delaying drinking. They're delaying sexual relations. Like, that's a good thing about the delayed adolescence, right? Like, yes, like, just take your time. Take your time. You got plenty of time to do that. Just quit screwing around, right? But the other part is that they feel like out of control because they're still a child, but yet they start to look like an adult. And they're starting to have teachers going, handle it yourself. And you're like, why? I don't have to do that. And so there's that rub, I think, that's part of it. Yeah. Other questions? Yes. Yeah. 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 Sure. Sure. Zoe, did you guys do mindfulness in guidance groups with your counselors last year? It's like the breathing and the pointing. What's the pointing thing? The emotions chart, right? Yeah. So our department, when they have guidance groups, so they're pulled out of PE, they're pulled out of English because that's the only class everybody has. They did a mindfulness training with the freshmen last year, and they're continuing it this year. There's also we also had 60 staff members trained by the two leaders, I forget their names, two ladies from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. They came and trained 60 of our staff members. I was in on that training. That's coming. We have a social and emotional learning team that's starting to gain traction, and I think you're going to see some of that in the future. But I think most of it happens through the counselors. But the problem is that even in an amazing school like this, the counselor has 300 students on their load. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Well, that's why I'm here, right? I'm trying to encourage this to happen at home. Yeah. Have you been doing anything that you could share? Right. Yeah. How old are your kids? But she works with middle school kids. Yeah. Yeah, the processing. Yeah. Yep. Yes. And to your point, modeling. If you're on the phone all the time, if you're not the best thing for you to do is process something that you went through during the day. Model it for them. Hey, Dad screwed up. Mom screwed up. Here's how this happened, and here's how I think I could have done it better, and here's why. Did you have anything like that today? And just model processing for them, because it's about reflection, right? Mindfulness comes out of reflection. And that's something that's increasingly important as we see the social and emotional learning needs of our students increasing. We're going to be addressing that in the next couple years here, but we're already doing it now. All right, I think we have time for one more question or two more. Just quick. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Just say it. Just say it. We're all friends. Just say it. Well, okay. All right. All right. You know what? Hey, y'all can argue out in the hallway about this, because I agree with you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as someone who's taught for 20,000 hours and has had boys and girls, I will tell you that they're less verbal. Boys, would you agree? What was the peace sign for? 22, what did I say? I just started last week. That's fine. No. All right, we have time for one more. Can I have one more question? Oh, wrapping it up. I'm wrapping up. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you. I think we've got, whoa, wait a minute. What do we have? Oh, Mr. Brown. Can you give it up for Kevin Brown, my favorite guy in this whole school? I love me some Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown is the associate principal at North Campus. Every time I see Kevin Brown, I laugh. Not because of his appearance or his jazz hands, but he always makes me laugh, I should say. I just spent all my energy up there. I'm sorry.
Well done.
Kevin Brown, everybody.
Thank you. We were going to warn you not to jump up when you heard the bells, but we were too late to do that. So on the spirit of thankfulness, starting where you left off, Brad, as someone who serves in this community, we are thankful to serve a community where 100 parents will come out on a Saturday morning in February to try to strengthen their families and all that we do. You are the backbone of what we do. It allows us to attract and hire and keep teachers like you've heard this morning. We're very proud of Brad, and he would count in my book as one of our gold medalists, but we have a fine faculty and staff, as do our elementary and associate schools across the district. I do have a few housekeeping items that I would like to share with you. First of all, in your folder, there's a bit of a typo, and I'm going to have to put on my reading glasses to share this with you so that I can see this. But if you'll pull out the blue schedule sheet, you will see at the top that we've omitted 1C, and so it goes from 1A to 1B to 1D, 1E, and 1F. So if you could just mentally cross out D, E, and F and replace those with C, D, and E. If you registered online, you're probably looking for 1C. That will be in C130. 1D will be in E107, and 1E will be in E113. So we apologize for that mix-up. That part is on us. And then lastly, in terms of the community service, Bradley touched on that just a moment ago. Would like to draw your attention to the pink sheet that you have in your folder, and going to present you with an opportunity. There have been a few conversations at Lyons Township this week around what are the odds that one of our own children is playing in the Super Bowl as the kicker for the Philadelphia. What are the odds that that would happen? I'm a math teacher. Right, yeah, it's great, isn't it? We're all excited for Jake Elliott, and I don't know what the odds would be, but we are hopeful. There are 5 board members. If you look, you can see them in the room. There are 5 board members that have been integral to planning the Parent University and the other events like the Screenagers event. I know there was some conversation about cell phones, and if you want to pin me here, I have some opinions to share on that subject as well. But that's happened because we have a core group, a small group of parents that serve on our board. And what we're hoping is that the odds in the room this morning would be that there would be 3 or 4 out of 100 who would give serious consideration to joining the Parent Community Network Board in the coming year. It takes about 90 minutes we meet every 2 weeks. We are flexible, and the most important thing is that we would love to hear your voice. These events are always planned in response to what we hear from you and our community's needs. And so on your way out, if you would give us your name and your email address, we will certainly reach back out to you. There are some gift bags. They're holding up gift bags. We'll draw during the break between classes. We'll probably draw a few names to just say thank you for those of you that have been courageous enough to offer your name up as someone who may be able to become involved. We would love to have you as part of that group. And then last but not least, I was to tell you that this is the most important. By now the coffee has landed, and so the bathroom, as you exit on your way to the right, the ladies' room and the men's room are just down the hallway to the right. On your way to the cafeteria, we have juice and coffee and rolls. And then there are some rooms that are set up in the resource room in the cafeteria as well. And so, did I get everything, Gene? Hiding, yes, the hidden in plain sight is in D102. That's a teenager's bedroom with drug paraphernalia that looks like it's not drug paraphernalia. And so if you've ever wondered what that might look like, what you're seeing sometimes, we hope that that's never in your home, but that's a good place to learn. Last but not least, we do have someone that we would like to honor. So, Gene, you knew this was going to happen. And please welcome Erica. Erica is going to help us say thank you to someone who's been very important here.
So Jean Whiting is a student assistance coordinator, and she has been with the Parent Community Network leading us through the planning of Parent University and our spring and fall Parent University events as well for 12 years, since 2006. So it's with great sadness that we say fond farewell to Jean on our board. She's retiring this year, so she's not just leaving us, she's actually leaving LT. So the whole school will grieve her loss of all the time and the dedication and all the energy she brings to this group has been amazing. She's guided us as we all stepped in, and she taught us the ropes, so hopefully we'll carry on, but all the more reason why if anybody here feels like they want to help us with planning, we would love the additional help. Kevin is going to be our LT liaison, and he's taking her place on the board, but it's always better to have more people because then we all work less. So we'd like to thank Jean for her years of service and a little retirement gift for you. Okay, so enjoy some refreshments and the resource room and stop through the Hidden in Plain Sight. It's a great exhibit. It's eye-opening.
Session 1.
And then we'll move on to session 1, breakout.